All right, the Audible's on the air. Kim Bokamper, Andy Cohen. I would normally say AC in the AM, but AC in the AM has been put on a hiatus during the offseason. You got the perfect deal. You do a 5-day-a-week article on the Dolphins on Dolphins.com. AC in the AM. Off season comes, you sleep late.
You can still
when there's a story, when there's something out there, I'll write something today.
The key thing is as events warrant.
As events warrant.
Right.
I like that.
So when something happens, you can be sure that you'll see AC in the AM.
So in other words, if something's happening, you can see AC in the AM.
Right.
If there's not shit happening, no need to get on there and even look.
I've got a Super Bowl column Friday morning coming out, so that's happening. That's an event that warrants it.
Yeah.
So.
No, well, speaking of, let's get to some business here, Andy, before we move on. First of all, the championship games 2 weeks ago, entertaining games. The Jaguar game, entertaining.
Yeah.
Second one, Philadelphia game, not so much so. But I think the playoffs have been pretty interesting for the most part throughout the run so far.
There's one game that was a super game, and that was the Saints Minnesota game.
Yep.
It's hard not to look back at that game as really the key game of the playoffs because it really changed so much. Because now you have to wonder how would New Orleans have done at Philly. You got to believe they would have given them a better game than the Vikings did.
And look, Pittsburgh getting knocked out of it too. Before getting to New England, everyone's looking at Pittsburgh, New England. So it creates some. It created a very interesting commentary through the whole thing. I just thought they were good, and it's funny because you get to that final 4 games, and you look at those quarterbacks. And everyone's saying, "Oh, you can't win in this league unless you've got a great quarterback." And you had one great quarterback in the semifinal games.
Right. And the Eagles are playing with a backup quarterback.
Yep.
Granted, he started before in the league, but he's basically a backup quarterback. Yep. I would have liked to have seen the Eagles with Carson Wentz
much
against
so.
the Patriots and Tom
much more
Brady.
so.
I think that would have been a really, really interesting matchup.
Yeah, with the defense and everything. But I'm looking for the only thing that the only thing about the games, watching New England and Jacksonville, you almost come to the conclusion watching that team is it doesn't matter how far they're behind in the first half, they're going to end up winning the game.
I mean, we've seen this movie
too many times
before.
Yep.
That's why when people tell me I love the Eagles, and I tell
love them all you want.
I tell them, the Patriots always find the play everybody talks about after the game, whether it's an interception, whether it's a Brady pass, they always find that play. And until somebody proves to me, other than the Giants, who did it a couple of times, that they can beat Brady in the Super Bowl, I'm not going to believe he can be beaten.
I'm with you. And look, there's been too many times where you thought maybe, and last year was a huge maybe. Arthur Blank was down on the sidelines in the third quarter, dancing around like they already had a Super Bowl coming,
right?
And which was a big mistake on his part. But then you watch this team come back, and the other thing with these guys, Andy, is you start looking at the depth on that team from a standpoint of how many big games they've played in, how many Super Bowl games, AFC Championship games, divisional playoff games, Monday night games, games in the middle of the season that are just dynamic games where you put New England against, name the team that's the hottest team out there for a Monday night game or a Sunday night game, and you get what you see out of them, and you almost get to the point where you just feel like, hey, until Tom Brady goes down, until Bill Belichick leaves, this is the norm that we're going to be living in for another few years.
And the fact that they have 2 weeks to prepare for this game. Belichick's one thing. Brady having 2 weeks. Brady will find the weakness of that defense, and Brady will, whether it's throwing 12 straight passes, whether it's 12 straight runs, he will find the soft spot in that defense.
And I think everyone's kind of come to the conclusion. If you haven't, you haven't been watching them. Nobody in that 15-minute halftime, nobody does more to help themselves win football games than that New England coaching staff when they come out. There's been a number of times when we've been up with the Dolphins where they kind of gave it to them in the first half and say, hey, we got a shot here.
And they change everything in the second half.
And the second half looks like a completely different ball game. Looks like 2 completely different teams out there. And that's dictated by typically it's dictated by the New England Patriots and what they do.
They can just beat you so many different ways. Look at the running back position. James White's in hibernation most of the year. He'll catch 12 passes in the Super Bowl. Deion Lewis, they're just loaded. Who's
the kid they have early? Burkhead or whatever.
Burkhead.
They get these guys and they're all productive.
Oh, they made Mike Gillislee a decent player.
Well, let me tell you what. I said it. And I've said it 100 times. I'll say it again. I was holding my breath last year during the draft that they didn't draft the kid from Stanford, the running back, the McCaffrey. I'm going, if these guys
they would have destroyed everyone with that kid.
If they get McCaffrey, forget it. You forget it, because he is such a good player at everything he does.
Right.
They would be able to utilize that guy in so many different ways and utilize him to an extreme advantage for themselves that they'd almost unbeatable
and
football
you better
team.
believe that Belichick would have taken him.
Sure, please. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. But anyway, so that's where I got the Super Bowl coming up. Should be interesting. Looking forward to it. Again, I just kind of hope it's a good game.
Yeah, it has the potential not to be a good game, but I would like to see it be a good game. I have a lot of respect for Doug Peterson. He's done. I remember him vividly when he was with the Dolphins.
Yeah.
I was in Philadelphia when he helped Shula win his 325th game, and it was it was an enormous moment, and he really didn't. He couldn't capture in his mind everything that was going on. Yeah. He told me later on, it was a couple of weeks later that
it really kind of hit him.
That he realized. Yeah. And he got a poster signed by everyone on the team, and it was a big deal to him. I like Doug Peterson. I think he's done a great job with this team.
He has.
I mean, you get to the Super Bowl with your backup quarterback, you've done a great job coaching.
No doubt. Yeah, typically teams would go down the tank under those circumstances, but from a foresight standpoint from them, they kept the guy there that's been there, done that from a standpoint of a starter. And so as much. And look, I'm with you. I think Carson Wentz, I think he's right now one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, and I think he's only going to get better, because I know when we were in Philadelphia, when the Dolphins practiced against Philadelphia before they played him in a preseason game, I just watched this kid go about his business. I watched every press conference he had after each practice. Handles people well. He's a thoughtful kid. He's a smart kid. He comes across as a very high class type of a caliber guy, and play. I mean, he can play.
Makes you wonder how good they're going to be next year, bro.
It does. It really does. Because I became a fan of his just watching him up there, and then obviously the way they started off and the way they played with him. So some news out there: the Dolphins have announced some of their coaching staff changes. They hired Eric Studstill as the run game coordinator / running back coach. Chris Kosur comes in as the defensive line coach. He takes over for Terrell Williams. Tony Oden is the defensive back. He comes in and takes over for Lou Anarumo, who, by the way, Lou got a job. He's with the New York Giants now.
That's closer to his home,
his
too.
Defense closer to home. Good guy. I think he did a really good job down here. So I'm really happy to see him back in the game so quickly. I've been asked, Andy, thousands of times, hey, did you ever think about coaching? No.
It's such a tough profession.
No.
Tough.
It's tough.
The hours, the appreciation.
The hours, the work, the lack of look, if you're not a head coach, even back in the day, you go back in the day, Andy, I don't care if you were an offensive or defensive coordinator. Half the people didn't know who you were.
Right, it's a little different
they rarely
today.
got talked. Now it's a little bit more, there's more out there, and so coaches are known, assistant coaches are known a little bit more, certainly coordinators, offense and defense. But if you're a position coach, for the most part, no one knows who you are. You kind of fly under the radar. You're at the mercy of your head coach. He gets fired, boom,
you're gone.
You're out the door, and you live that kind of vagabond lifestyle that God forbid the lifestyle they live. God bless their wives who basically take down the home front, take care of everything, take care of the kids and everything, because these guys are they allow them to do what they do, and what they do takes up a lot of time, and it takes a lot of family space up.
When you go 6-10, you just got to expect change, Bo, and we expect change on the roster, significant change, and you expect change on the coaching staff too. You just can't keep on going on like you're going on. Yeah. And I think the important thing to me on these new people coming in is that it's a fresh set of eyes. They can look at the tape of last year's team. They can look at their position group players. They have a totally different perspective because they weren't coaching them every day. They're coming from the outside looking. And I think that fresh approach, that fresh look, to be able to have other voices that you trust that you can listen to evaluate the roster. Certainly this time of year is important.
No doubt. Some other thing, and this kind of comes up. Duke Dennis gets in. He's on with us. Comes with us a lot on Periscope. Hey, Bo, have you ever remembered a team making a big trade before the Super Bowl? You're talking about the Kansas City and Alex Smith.
Great question.
And I was when I saw that, Andy, I'm not shocked that they traded him because they've been wanting to get rid of him all year long. I mean, he was just who's the kid they drafted? Mahomes. He's their next guy.
Right.
They want to get him in there. And all year long, all you kept hearing out of Kansas City is, we want to get rid of Alex Smith. He's available if you want him. And you keep watching. All he did was kept winning games.
He had a hell of a 2-month run.
Yeah. Look, he played great against the Dolphins. And in the playoffs, I thought, here's a guy who was the first pick in the draft by the 49ers when Aaron Rodgers, it was going to be either him or Aaron Rodgers. Aaron goes down to 26, goes to Green Bay. He's had a Hall of Fame type of career. And Alex Smith, who's been very successful both with San Francisco and Kansas City, is a quarterback that all he does is win football games, but they can't wait to get rid of him.
And to answer the question, I can never remember a trade this early. I really can't.
This Andy, it's always been a dead zone. Nothing goes on other than this coaching
stuff.
Well,
now the question is, what happens to Kirk Cousins
right,
now?
Yeah.
Do we hear the Buffalo Bills name being called?
Well, that follows up.
Do we hear the New York Jets name being called?
Yeah, well, Steve Santana. What's up, Bo? Do we go after Kirk Cousins?
The price tag is so huge.
And his price tag is up there.
Because he's been making $26 million a year as a franchise player.
Yeah, so...
No, I don't think
we're going to give you $8 million.
No. I believe the Dolphins need a young, talented quarterback. They do not need...
I don't want... Look, unless you strike out in the draft... completely strike out on a quarterback.
They won't.
And there's not there. No, I agree with you.
Right.
Well, I'm just saying if that's the case, then maybe you go out and you get a guy like this. But other than being a completely disastrous draft where you don't get a quarterback, I see no need to go out and get this guy or that guy that's got 2 or 3 years maybe left that was never been a franchise type guy anyway. And bring him in as I just
I think there'll be 4 or 5 teams that will make him rich.
Yes,
and there will be a bidding war, and these are teams that are
Denver,
relatively close.
Denver, the Jets,
but lacking a quarterback.
Yeah.
Buffalo, the Jets, Denver. Will Jacksonville be in the market?
Yes, right.
That's an interesting scenario because he took them to a win in the playoffs, but he's been ripped so much in Jacksonville. There's a lot of interesting things that will feed off of this trade.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, it's kind of the first domino in what will be a number of dominoes to fall somewhere along the way. Because if someone goes out and says, hey, we're going to sign Kirk Cousins, and this guy we got, now he's out there, and we're going to get questions, hey, Bo, do you think we're going to pick up, this guy
is Bruce
now, right?
Smith available?
Yeah, right, exactly. So, anyway, Facebook, Ignaska Kaleska. I would, Ignaska, next time you come in, tell us where you're from, because I got to figure out where that is. That sounds like an Eastern Bloc name to me, doesn't it? Like somewhere in the
I don't think he's from Milwaukee.
In the Baltic
in
the Baltic companies or Baltic countries or whatever. But what he would do is package a deal to trade Devontae Parker to move up and draft Baker Mayfield and sign Jarvis. I wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't do it either. First of all, he's overvaluing Devontae right now because Devontae is more valuable to the Dolphins than any other team.
And 2, you may not need to trade up to get to Baker Mayfield.
You may not need to trade up.
I mean, right now, Baker, when you look on most of the draft prognosticators out there, he's somewhere in there between 10 and 15. So he's in your range.
If they have a conviction on Baker Mayfield,
and you move up a notch or two.
I believe he'll be there.
Yes,
myself.
Yeah, I do too.
And I don't believe you want to package Devontae Parker in a trade.
No, I wouldn't do that. But sign Jarvis, absolutely. I don't know. Your thoughts on Jarvis?
He's one of my favorite players on the team.
Yeah.
He's so much the heart and soul of this team.
Yep.
But it is a dollars and cents league, and we just have to see how the Dolphins approach it.
And let me ask you this, Andy, as far as Jarvis is concerned. Forget stats, forget all the other thing, forget anything that he does that goes down in the stat book. Yards after catch, average yards per catch, whatever you want to throw there. I believe he's the straw that stirs that offense, at least from an energy standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, and I can deal with his shortcomings, and I can deal with with his outbursts, if you will, if he can eliminate them from after the whistle is blown,
Post-play penalties. I know you can live with it. The big question is, can Adam Gase live with it? He was very upset, clearly, at the end of the season. What took place in that last game with the fights and the helmet throw and if Jarvis is going to make this kind of money, he needs to grow up a little bit. I don't want him to change his spunk. I don't want him to change his heart.
But that's the.
But he needs to mature just a little bit and understand that if he's a leader, he needs to lead by example.
Well, that's the tightrope you walk with a guy like him. And I'll give you the example. The example I would give would be Brian Cox.
Okay.
Brian Cox was very similar to him from an emotional standpoint.
Right.
He was a very volatile guy. He was
right.
a tough guy. He was a leader. He gave you everything that you asked of him as a player, whether he had shortcomings or not. He gave you everything he had, and he was a guy that didn't mind going over to the other sideline and create. But I think Brian was a little better at cutting it off just before you fell off the cliff.
Sometimes he fell off the cliff when he challenged the entire Cincinnati Bengals sideline. I'm wondering, were any of the Killer Bees like that? No. The Killer Bees were all cerebral, most cerebral, but not let their emotions.
I'm going to tell you this. Not only the Killer Bees, but that entire football team. That entire football team from 1970 until Don Shula retired were too afraid to do those kind of things.
I'm trying to think. Did they have any player that would challenge the world during a game?
Not very often, because if you challenge the world and you got a penalty, then you had to go see.
Then you're challenging the jaw on the sideline.
Then you had to go see. Then you had to go see the Wizard of Oz.
Right.
Right.
And
you didn't want to see.
You can't bring Toto to that one.
I can't tell you the number of guys that I've been with in alumni events or whatever, where you start having a few cocktails and start telling stories. And I don't care if it's Larry Zonka, I don't care if it was Paul Warfield, I don't care if it was Dan Marino, I don't care who it was, said, you know what, if I ever had a penalty where, it stopped the drive or allowed a drive to go and they scored, I would rather walk to the visiting sideline than our sideline.
I got a player for you, Mark Clayton.
Yeah.
Now, Mark Clayton was like that, but Mark Clayton knew how to stop and knew when. But he was as feisty and in your face and tough guy.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
he used to. I always tell Mark knew where the line was.
Right.
And he knew not to cross the line. And so Mark used to do. Coach Shula. Which meeting starts at 7:15. It doesn't start at 7:16. It doesn't start at 7:15 and 20 seconds. It starts at 7:15.
I'm there at 7.
And I was always a good 10 minutes before. But Clayton, so his podium would be right here, and he'd be speaking to the entire team. And there was a door right there. And right outside that door was Mark Clayton's locker. and so Clayton would be sitting in his locker, 2 minutes, 7:13. Clayton just be sitting there and Shula would be up at the podium. And you'd see Shula. Look at his notes. He'd look out the door. Look at his notes.
He'd like to push you as far as he possibly could.
7:14. Shula's still looking out the door. Clayton's still sitting in his locker. And he'd be sitting there just,
just like oblivious to the time of day.
7:14, 56, 57, 58. He would cross the threshold.
I'm on time, Coach.
He wouldn't say a word. Cross the threshold. We'd all be sitting there, and you knew what was going on. And he'd walk behind Coach Shula, and once he got directly behind him, he would turn and give that. We're all sitting there, and we'd all start laughing at his shoes. And son of a bitch, he'd sit down. But hey, right. but let me tell you what. The guy never took anything away from the team on the field.
No, he never did.
He never took anything away from the team
every
on
game.
The field.
There was no letdown game for him.
Yeah. Steve Oltenbrus, Facebook. Why didn't we get Mike Shula as offensive coordinator? Because I think Adam. I think if you've watched Adam Gase, he's got the tendency to go with guys that he knows. I talked to Adam last year. We were talking about free agency a little bit towards the end of the season, and he said, look, we go out in free agency. I'm not going to get anybody that I don't know. And if I don't know them, I'm not going to get anybody that I don't know that I know very well, that knows them well, that can give me the story on them.
Also, Mike Shula wants to call plays.
And Mike Shula, yeah. And so anyway, so I don't think his path has ever crossed with Mike Shula.
No,
that's one.
Right.
Two, he is not going to give up play calling. And Mike would want to be a play caller.
No doubt about it.
No doubt about it.
You have to have, in order to be the offensive coordinator on Adam Gase's team, you have to have the right mindset.
Yeah, you got to be willing to be the in-between guy.
And you have to be willing to know that the things you whisper in his ear are very important, and just as important as things you would whisper into the headset at the quarterback.
Yep.
And they have to be resigned to know that Adam Gase is the one in the headset to the quarterback.
Yeah, look, Mike Shula, I got all the respect in the world.
I do too.
For what he's done, for the way that he's gone through. You know, he started charting plays with the Dolphins and then worked his way up and through Alabama
him as
and everything.
10-year-old.
Yep. And so and really good guy, hardworking guy. But
he'll get another job.
He'll get a job. I'm not worried about that. I just don't think that this is the place for him.
No.
If we don't keep Jarvis, what do you guys think about picking up Braxton Berrios in later rounds for the slot? Small guy, small-bodied guy. You know, he
a little bit of a Belichick type guy.
Well, I was just going to say, don't be surprised if he doesn't end up in a New England uniform somewhere along the way, because he's that kind of guy.
Right.
For, a guy that a smart guy, a cerebral guy that's going to be where he's supposed to be. And if you throw him the ball, it's like Tom Brady said about Wes Welker when he got him. It's like having a dog. I throw the ball, he goes and catches it and brings it back to me, and then his tongue goes out and says, "Throw me another one." He's that kind of player.
Yeah, I don't think Berrios is
Love the guy,
Landry,
though. No. Love what he did at University of Miami. Well, let's not forget, he played through his senior year and barely played when he was a junior. I don't believe he played very much at all. So it's not like this guy was.
But he is a very good slot player.
But, and I think you're right. I think he says in the later round, I think Braxton is probably going to be 4, 5, 6 somewhere in that ballpark in the draft. Just guessing. Periscope, Kevson1 at Kevson1. Hey, Bo and Andy, what do you think about Lamar Jackson at quarterback? We get him in the second round. It's a steal. Here's where you got to start thinking about. Look, Lamar Jackson is a guy the last game I saw him play was pitiful. I mean, I just, errant passes, just nothing going on for him at Louisville at that point. But he's got a lot of talent. But if he's going to be your backup quarterback, you better install 2 offenses, because you're not going to run the same offense that Ryan Tannehill's going to run.
Quarterback on this level?
I don't know. All I know is guys that played quarterback in college, when they come here, they want to play quarterback. I don't think that he's. I just don't think his game fits at this level. So I think he's a guy that if you look on most teams' draft boards and they put Lamar Jackson up there, they would put player or athlete.
Right.
That would be his position.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him as poorly as he played in the last game, and I agree with you. I've seen him play some great games, and he's got great running ability. His mechanics aren't pure, but he throws the ball well, and you can never tell how it's going to transfer to the next level.
Brent Stadden, should we go after receiver in the draft or free agency, regardless of what happens with Jarvis? I think if Jarvis stays, I don't see a need.
No.
Look, you've got Stills coming back, Devontae coming back, and you still hope that Devontae gets over them.
You still hope Carew is going to blossom at some point.
Carew is going to have an opportunity to see if he can get up the next step. And look, I wouldn't be 7 rounds of the draft. I wouldn't be surprised they draft a receiver somewhere. No. But it certainly is not. Look, my priority and you can list them wherever you want. My priority is quarterback, tight end, guard, linebacker. Those are my 4.
I've got the 4. I've got them in a different order.
In whichever way you put them,
right. But
you juxtapose them whichever way you feel.
It kind of needs to be an outside linebacker.
Yes, I'm with you. Yeah, because you got
coverage
Raekwon.
Skills
you forget you got Raekwon McMillan coming back.
Right.
That's to me, that's like another draft choice.
No doubt about it.
And he's going to come back. I don't unless there's something completely comes out of left field. Raekwon's going to be your starting middle linebacker next year. I'd bet my house on it right now. Unless he gets hurt, unless they go out and they draft some guy in the 7th round, he turns out to be another Zach Thomas. Right?
5th round, probably.
You know, so. Ignashka is an alias. He's going covert. We got covert operations.
His name is John Doe.
We got covert operations going here on the Audible. You never know. Who you hiding from there? He might be trying to catfish us. He may want to date with you.
That could be Adam Gase.
It could be. Hey, it could be Adam Gase. That's right. Craig Sue's on Facebook. We need a good, solid tight end that can block and catch. I don't care if he can block. I don't care if they go and get a tight end. Give me a tight end that can run down the middle of the field.
I mean, there are too many in this league for this team not to have one, Bo.
Everybody's got one.
It's crazy.
Everybody's got one.
No, they need to. I believe they need to draft a tight end.
I'm looking, and they draft a guy in the first round. I'm happy. A tight end. I don't think I would. That wouldn't be my priority, but I think it's the importance of finding that tight end is at that level.
Because Adam Gase's offense is predicated so much on the tight end. And when he doesn't get consistency from the tight end, it affects every other.
Well, look at this. And I don't want to take any shots at
Julius Thomas.
Julius Thomas. But Adam put him in a number of positions where he was one-on-one, right? Where, just man-on-man, and either the ball was there and he just dropped it, or ran the wrong route, or did this. Adam used him and put him in mismatched situations that should have been much more productive than they were. And you need somebody that when you get them in that mismatch and they take advantage of that mismatch, they either run the right route and they catch the football and they produce for you. And that's not what we got.
Right. And again, there's just so many of these players around the league, and there are probably 15 or 20 of them out there that are good, solid players, and the Dolphins need to be on that list.
Yeah. Look, you go out and draft a good tight end that could be a starter for you. I wouldn't mind keeping Marquise Gray. I think they underutilized Marquise Gray last year. I like what he did. And I wouldn't mind keeping Anthony Fasano for another year. Played well this year. Didn't throw him the ball that often, but every time they threw him the ball, he caught the ball. And he does a good block for you. I think he's got another year of blocking for you.
See, that's why I believe these new coaches coming in are important, because they're going to look at the game tape and they're going to go, Marquise Gray, I see some good things in him, and it could light a fire.
Yeah.
And that's why new coaches help.
Yeah, no doubt. New look at it. Periscope, Hoff81. Hey, guys, do you think Isaiah Ford can step up if Landry leaves? I haven't seen enough Isaiah Ford to tell you.
He was a late-round pick.
Yeah, the other kid we forgot about, let's not forget about Jakeem Grant. We were talking about wide receivers because he's vaulted himself right into the middle of that picture.
And I think you're going to see him play wide next year and cause a lot of mismatches for secondaries. Right. We forgot about him, and he's an important piece of the puzzle.
Here's another one. Rodney Mathis here. Bo, let's discuss linebacker Raekwon Smith at 11. Should we? Look, if Raekwon Smith is there at 11, I think you've got a decision to make, because that kid plays now.
Well, he can also cover Gronk, which is key. He can rush the passer. He's a little bit undersized, but he makes plays all over the field. Yeah. And that's the kind of guy you want.
I think if
he's there.
Let me tell you what. You show up there. Let's put it this way. You show up at 11, and you got Baker Mayfield, and you got Raekwon Smith standing there. You got a tough decision to make.
You do have a tough decision.
You got a tough decision to make with either of those two guys.
It's a decision I want the Dolphins to make.
I would love to.
I want them to be in that position.
Yeah, I would too. It'd be great. So anyway, I think we're done, right, fellas? Think that's going to wrap it up? Yeah, that's it.
Can I give a shout out to my son Travis in Atlanta?
How you doing, Travis in Atlanta?
Okay, good.
Well, you can give him the shout out too.
Shout out.
I got to get home because I got someone coming to take my Christmas lights down finally.
It's only the end of January, Bo.
I wasn't going to take them down
for next year.
Well, you know what? I had all white lights, so you really can't see them anymore as long as I don't put them on. So I was thinking about just keeping them up there.
Good.
Until I found somebody. I go, hey, can you take my lights down for me? What's weak about that?
Just leave them on.
Right. I stopped putting my Christmas lights up when I turned 60. Yes, I'm over 60.
More people get hurt putting up Christmas lights. Remember that.
Every time I had to climb up my roof to put my Christmas light. I had to be on my roof to get my Christmas lights up. And every time I'd run into a nest of wasps, and I would get stung. I would be MFing everybody in this. 2 years ago, I stopped putting my Christmas tree lights up.
Good.
And my neighbor came over and said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "You're not putting your Christmas." I go, "No, I got someone to put them up." He goes, "You ruined my whole Christmas." He goes, "It's not Christmas in the neighborhood if you're not up on the roof MFing somebody or screaming or hollering or cursing at somebody." So, well, it's a new age on Christmas.
Yes, it is. Bo,
Andy Cohen, AC in the AM. You can see him whenever something interesting
if it
pops
happens,
up.
I'll be there.
If it happens, he'll be there. If there's nothing happening,
I won't
you
be
ain't
there.
going to see him until next fall.
But during the season, I'll be there every day.
Get your Super Bowl preview from Andy this week. When's that coming out?
Friday.
6 a.m.?
6 a.m.
If you're going, it's always 6 a.m.
6 a.m.
God bless you. I'll read you at 6 p.m.
Okay, good.
All right, that's going to do it for the Audible. Leon, give me some good information on my Christmas lights. Huh? Are your Christmas lights down? Oh, you go that. No, you don't. You get that little thing you stick in the plug in, and it looks like shit. People are going, look at that cheap bastard there, that house. You that guy, right? Yeah, the lazy son of a bitch.
People plug it in for
Yeah, that's right. Hire somebody to plug it in every day. Got someone coming over every day to plug in my. All right. Anyway, that's going to do it for the Audible. We'll be back on Friday. Not sure what time we're going to be back, but we'll be back. Hopefully Joe Rose will be with us. He was sick last week. And I want to thank John Congemi and Sam Madison for covering me on Monday. I had a glorious day at the Broward County Courthouse, jury duty.
Ooh.
From 7:30 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. all day long.
You can't get out of that with your connections?
No. I didn't get picked, though.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get picked. It was a double attempted first-degree murder trial, too, which I thought would be interesting, but I didn't want to be around for it.
Right.
So, anyway, that's going to do it for the Audible. We'll see you guys on Friday.